Elisha didn't just inherit Elijah's job, he asked for twice the power, and he actually got it. We are looking at the 14 recorded miracles that defined his life, from raising the dead to blinding entire armies. Stick around to the end, and I will explain why his final miracle happened after he was already in the grave, and why that one detail changes everything you thought you knew about legacy. If you scroll away now, you are going to miss the most human, messy, and incredible part of his story. Welcome back to All Religious Story. If you are new here, make sure you are subscribed, because what you are about to hear is going to blow your mind. The air in the Jordan Valley is heavy. It smells like damp earth, river silt, and the sweat of hard labor. It is a place called Abel Mahola, and it is the last place you would expect to find a man chosen by the heavens. Elisha is out there in the mud, working behind a team of oxen. He is not a priest in a temple or a scholar in a library. He is a farmer. He is surrounded by 12 teams of oxen, which tells you his family has money, but his hands are just as calloused as any other worker in the field. He is in the middle of a long day of plowing when a stranger walks up. This isn't just any stranger. It is Elijah. He is famous for the wrong reasons. He is the guy who lives in caves, eats whatever he can find, and talks to fire. He doesn't say hello. He doesn't ask for a favor. He just walks over to Elisha and tosses his hairy, rough mantle over the young man's shoulders. That is it. That is the call. In that culture, that cloak represents everything Elijah is. It is his authority. It is his identity. Elisha knows exactly what this means. He doesn't ask for time to think it over. He doesn't call a family meeting. He takes his plows, the tools of his trade, his livelihood, and he burns them. He slaughters his oxen right there in the field, roasts the meat, and feeds it to the people of his village. He is burning his bridges. He is saying goodbye to his old life, his property, and his family, and he walks away into the desert with a man who is basically a walking storm. It is a massive gamble, and it shows you right away that Elisha is a man of extremes. He either stays in the dirt, or he follows a prophet into the unknown. He chooses the unknown. For years, he is just the guy who pours water on Elijah's hands. He is the apprentice. He is the one who watches the fire come down from the sky, and the one who listens to the silence of the desert. But he is watching, and he is learning. He sees how Elijah handles the pressure, how he deals with kings who want him dead, and how he keeps his focus when everything else is falling apart. By the time they reach the Jordan River, Elijah knows his time is coming to an end. He asks Elisha what he wants before he goes. Elisha doesn't ask for fame. He doesn't ask for an easy life. He asks for a double portion of Elijah's spirit. It is a legal term, really. In the law of that time, the firstborn son got a double share of the father's inheritance. Elisha is asking to be treated like the successor, the heir to the work. It is a bold thing to say, but Elijah tells him that if he sees him go, it is his. Then, the sky opens up. A whirlwind rips through the air, chariots of fire appear, and Elijah is gone. Elisha is left standing there with nothing but that same old, heavy mantle. He picks it up. He walks to the bank of the river, hits the water, and it parts. He isn't just a farmer anymore. He is the new voice of the nation. But he is a different kind of prophet. If you are starting to see how much pressure he was under right from day one, hit that like button. It helps us keep digging into these stories. Elisha doesn't stay in the mountains. He moves into the cities. He is the prophet of the streets. His first act isn't calling down fire. It is fixing the water in Jericho. The city is great, but the water is bad. It brings death to the land. Elisha walks to the source of the spring, throws in a bowl of salt, and the water is healed. It is a quiet, practical miracle. It is about making life sustainable for the people living there. He isn't interested in being a spectacle. He is interested in being a neighbor. Then there is the widow. She is in deep trouble. Her husband was a follower of the prophets, but he died, and he left behind a massive debt. The creditors are coming to take her 2 sons as slaves. It is a desperate, heartbreaking situation. Elisha doesn't give her a lecture on finances. He asks her what she has in the house. She says, "Nothing, except a little jar of oil." Elisha tells her to go and borrow as many empty jars as she can from her neighbors. Not a few, but a lot. She does it. She starts pouring that tiny bit of oil into the first jar, then the second, then the third. It just keeps flowing. It doesn't stop until every single jar in the house is full. She sells the oil, pays off the debt, and saves her children. It is a miracle of multiplication, but it is also a miracle of dignity. Elisha is solving real-world problems. He is dealing with poverty, hunger, and the crushing weight of debt. This is the Elisha that the people loved. He was the guy you went to when the world felt like it was closing in on you. But wait, the craziest part is still ahead. He isn't just a miracle worker for the poor. He ends up in the palaces too. He becomes the most influential man in the country, even if he doesn't have a title. He is the one the kings call when the armies of Moab or Aram are at the gates. He is the ultimate strategic advisor, except his intel doesn't come from spies. It comes from his connection to something much bigger. He travels to the town of Shunammite. A wealthy woman there realizes he is a man of God, so she convinces her husband to build him a small room on the roof. It is a private space, a place to rest, a desk, a lamp, a bed. It is the only time we see Elisha with a home of his own. He is so grateful for her kindness that he tells her she will have a son. And she does. But the tragedy hits years later. The boy is out in the field, complains of a headache, and dies in his mother's arms. She doesn't panic. She doesn't scream. She saddles her donkey and rides straight to Elisha. When he realizes what happened, he doesn't send a messenger. He goes with her. He walks into that room on the roof, the room built for his comfort, and he finds the boy cold and still on his bed. He shuts the door. He is alone with his thoughts and the weight of a mother's grief. He prays, and then he stretches himself over the boy, body to body. It is an act of pure, raw empathy. He warms the boy with his own life. The boy sneezes 7 times and opens his eyes. It is the most intimate, human moment of his entire career. He isn't a statue on a pedestal. He is a man who feels the pain of others so deeply that he refuses to let it stand. If this is blowing your mind right now, hit that like button and subscribe. We have more stories like this coming. Elisha's life is full of these contrasts. One day he is raising a child. The next he is dealing with the politics of war. The king of Aram is furious because every time he plans an ambush against Israel, Elisha knows about it. The king thinks he has a traitor in his camp, but his servants tell him the truth. It is the prophet. He hears everything, even what you say in your bedroom. The king of Aram decides to send his entire army to capture one man. They surround the city of Dothan at night. When Elisha's servant wakes up and sees the horses and chariots everywhere, he is terrified. He asks what they should do. Elisha just says, "Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." He prays, and the servant's eyes are opened. He sees the hills full of fire and heavenly protection. Then, Elisha prays that the Aramean army be struck with blindness. He walks right up to the world's most dangerous soldiers and leads them, blind, straight into the heart of Samaria, the capital of Israel. He doesn't slaughter them. He feeds them. He gives them bread and water and sends them home. It is a move that leaves the enemy baffled and terrified. He turned a military threat into a message of mercy. And what happens next? You are not ready for this. The king of Aram comes back. This time he doesn't send a small force. He lays siege to the entire city of Samaria. It is a brutal, slow starvation. The famine is so bad that people are doing things that are almost too dark to mention. The king of Israel is so broken he tears his robes, and he blames Elisha. He wants his head. Elisha is sitting in his house with the elders. He knows the king's messenger is coming to kill him. He tells the elders to hold the door. He tells them that by this time tomorrow, the price of flour and barley will be back to normal. The king's officer laughs at him. He says that even if the heavens opened up, it couldn't happen. Elisha looks at him and says, "You will see it with your own eyes, but you won't eat any of it." Outside the city gate, there are 4 lepers. They are outcasts, forgotten by everyone. They look at each other and decide that they are going to die anyway. If they stay, they starve. If they go to the enemy camp, they might be killed, but they might get food. They choose to walk toward the camp. When they get there, The place is empty. The ground is shaking because God made the Arameans hear the sound of a massive, charging army. They panicked and ran for their lives, leaving everything behind. The lepers eat their fill, take the silver and gold, and then realize they can't keep this to themselves. They go back to the city gate and tell the guards. The city rushes out, the famine ends, and the price of grain drops just like Elisha predicted. In the chaos, the king's skeptical officer is trampled by the crowd at the gate. He saw the provision, but he didn't get to taste it. It is a brutal lesson in faith and doubt. Elisha is now an old man. He has been the prophet for over 50 years. He has seen kings rise and fall. He has seen dynasties crumble. He has seen the best and the worst of his people. He is lying on his deathbed, weak and fading. The current king of Israel, a man named Joash, comes to visit him. This is the man who is supposed to be the leader, but he is crying over the dying prophet. He says, "My father, the chariot of Israel and its horsemen." Elisha tells him to take a bow and arrows. He puts his own hands over the king's hands. He tells him to shoot out the window. It is a symbolic act of war. The king shoots, and Elisha says, "The arrow of the Lord's victory over Aram." Then he tells him to strike the ground with the arrows. The king hits the ground 3 times and stops. Elisha gets angry. He tells him that if he had hit it 5 or 6 times, he would have destroyed Aram completely. Now, he will only have 3 victories. It is a strange, tense final moment. Elisha isn't just a miracle worker. He is a kingmaker who is frustrated by the lack of vision in the leaders he serves. He dies, and he is buried. There is no chariot of fire this time. There is no whirlwind. Just a grave, a quiet, dusty tomb. But the story doesn't end there. Sometime later, a group of people is burying a man nearby. They see a raiding party coming, and they panic. They throw the body into Elisha's grave and run. The moment that dead body touches Elisha's bones, the man comes back to life and stands up. It is the final, bizarre, and powerful miracle. Even in death, even after years of service, there is still a lingering, holy power in the man who gave everything he had to others. He spent his life pouring himself out, and even his bones seem to have an echo of that life. Think about the contrast between Elijah and Elisha. Elijah was the fire. He was the one who stood on the mountain and challenged the world to change. He was the prophet of the crisis. Elisha was the one who walked through the front door. He was the prophet of the home, the city, and the battlefield. He was the one who dealt with the day-to-day, the messy, the complicated, and the broken. He wasn't just a successor, he was an evolution. He took the fire of his mentor and turned it into a light for everyone else. He taught us that a legacy isn't about how you leave. You don't need a chariot of fire to make an impact. You don't need to disappear in a blaze of glory to be remembered. A real legacy is built in the upper room of a house in Shunammite. It is built in the jar of oil that saves a family. It is built in the patience to mentor a king who doesn't quite get it. It is built by being present, by being available, and by caring about the things that everyone else ignores. Elisha was a farmer who realized his life was bigger than his field. He was an apprentice who dared to ask for more. He was a counselor to kings who refused to be bought. He was a friend to the widow and the leper. He was a man who lived a long, hard, and often lonely life, but he never lost his sense of purpose. He stayed in the fight until his final breath and even beyond. The story of the man coming back to life in his tomb is the perfect ending. It is a reminder that his work wasn't just about him. It was about the power he carried, a power that outlived his own body. It is a poetic, strange, and beautiful image. A man who spent his life bringing hope to the hopeless finally rests, and even that rest is a witness to the life he lived. We often think of these historical figures as distant, untouchable legends. We see them in stained glass windows or read about them in books, and they feel like statues. But when you look at the details, the way he slept in a room on a roof, the way he got frustrated with a king who wouldn't strike the ground enough, the way he felt the grief of a mother, you realize he was just like us. He was a person trying to navigate a world that was often dark, violent, and unfair. He used the gifts he was given to make it a little bit better, one jar of oil at a time.
He didn't seek the spotlight. He didn't build a monument to himself. He stood in the shadows of the kings and the shadows of the mountains, and he did the work. He was the bridge between the fire and the people. And maybe that is the most important lesson of all. We don't all need to be the one who calls down fire. Some of us are called to be the ones who heal the water, who pay the debt, who sit with the grieving, and who stand at the gate when everyone else has run away. Elisha's life tells us that the small acts of service are just as important as the big, earth-shaking miracles. The multiplication of the oil is just as much a miracle as the parting of the river. The healing of the boy in the upper room is just as much a miracle as the destruction of an army. It is all part of the same work. It is all about being a vessel for something bigger than yourself. As we look back at his 50 years of service, we see a man who never stopped growing.
He started as a guy behind an ox, and he ended as the spiritual backbone of an entire nation. He didn't stay the same. He changed. He adapted. He learned. He grew into the role that was given to him, and he made it his own. He didn't try to be Elijah. He didn't try to copy his style or his methods. He was Elisha. He was the guy who could handle the kings and the peasants with the same grace. If you have ever felt like you were stuck in the mud, like the guy at the beginning of this story, remember that the mantle can come when you least expect it. You don't need to be perfect to be called. You just need to be willing to burn your plows and walk. You need to be willing to leave your comfort zone and follow the path that is set for you, even if you don't know where it leads. Elisha's journey is a reminder that the world needs more people who are willing to be present. It needs more people who are willing to listen to the whisper of the divine in the midst of the noise. It needs more people who are willing to stand for what is right, even when it is not popular. It needs more people who are willing to serve, even when they are tired, even when they are old, and even when they have nothing left to give. The grave of Elisha is empty now, lost to the sands of time. We don't know exactly where he rests, but the impact of his life is still felt. It is in the stories we tell, in the lessons we learn, and in the inspiration we find when we look at his life. He was a man who showed us that the measure of a life is not in its beginning or its end, but in the space between. It is in the years of service, the thousands of small moments, and the quiet, steady influence that ripples out long after the man is gone. Think about the boy who was raised from the dead. Think about the widow who was saved from poverty. Think about the army that was blinded and then fed. These aren't just stories of magic. They are stories of transformation. They are stories about how one person, committed to a higher calling, can change the trajectory of an entire culture. Elisha didn't change the world by conquering it. He changed it by serving it. He changed it by being a light in the dark. And that is the challenge for us. How are we using our lives? Are we just going through the motions, or are we looking for the opportunities to make a difference? Are we waiting for a chariot of fire, or are we willing to do the work? In the quiet, dusty corners of our own lives, are we willing to step up when we are needed, or are we looking for an excuse to stay in the field? Elisha's story is a call to action. It is a call to be more than we are, to do more than we think we can, and to give more than we have. It is a story that invites us to look at our own lives and ask what we are holding on to, what we are willing to burn, and what we are willing to build. It is a story that reminds us that we are all part of something much larger than our own story. The legacy of Elisha is not in the miracles themselves, but in the man who performed them. It is in his character, his humility, his courage, and his deep, abiding faith. He was a man who knew who he was and whose he was. And because of that, he was able to do things that seemed impossible. He was able to be a rock in a storm and a comfort in a crisis. So, as we close this chapter on the prophet of the streets, take a moment to reflect on what you have heard. Think about the farmer who became a kingmaker. Think about the apprentice who became a master. Think about the man who lived to serve. And maybe, just maybe, you will find a little bit of Elisha in yourself. Maybe you will find the courage to follow your own calling, the wisdom to seek the double portion, and the heart to make a difference in the lives of those around you. The story of Elisha is not just an ancient history lesson. It is a blueprint for living. It is a guide for how to navigate the complexities of life with integrity and grace. It is a reminder that no matter where you start,
you can end up somewhere that changes the world. It is a reminder that you don't need a title to have influence. You just need a heart that is open and a spirit that is ready. He was the prophet of the everyday. He was the prophet of the messy, the broken, and the beautiful. He was the prophet who never stopped, who never gave up, and who never let the weight of his office crush his humanity. He was Elisha, and his story is still being written in the lives of everyone who chooses to follow in his footsteps. It is a story of hope. It is a story of redemption. It is a story of power. It is a story that proves that even in the most difficult times, there is always a way forward. There is always a way to make things better. There is always a way to be a light. And that is a message that never gets old. That is a message that we all need to hear.
As we step away from the life of this incredible man, let the lessons linger. Let the image of the burning plows remind you of the cost of commitment. Let the image of the jar of oil remind you of the potential for multiplication. Let the image of the room on the roof remind you of the value of hospitality. And let the image of the empty tomb remind you of the enduring power of a life well lived. This is the story of a man who was once a farmer and who became a legend. It is the story of a man who asked for everything and who gave everything in return. It is the story of Elisha, the prophet who performed double the miracles of his mentor and whose life still echoes through the halls of history. It is a story that reminds us that we are all capable of more than we think. It is a story that reminds us that we are all called to be something more. We have explored the life of a man who lived in the shadow of giants, but carved out his own path. We have seen how he handled the pressures of power, the pains of loss, and the challenges of leadership. We have seen how he stayed true to his mission, even when the world around him was changing. And we have seen how he left a mark that has lasted for thousands of years. The world is full of people who want to be remembered, but very few who are willing to do the work to be worthy of it. Elisha was one of the few. He didn't care about the glory. He didn't care about the applause. He cared about the people he served. He cared about the work he was called to do. And that is why he is still remembered today. That is why his story still matters. If you have enjoyed this journey through the life of Elisha, if you have found something here that speaks to you, then you have already taken the first step. You have already started to look at your own life through a different lens. You have already started to see the potential for greatness in your own story. And that is the most important thing of all. We have covered a lot of ground today. We have looked at his origins, his early miracles, his human connections, his geopolitical influence, and his final, lasting legacy. We have seen the highs and the lows, the victories and the defeats, the joy and the sorrow of a life lived in service. And through it all, one thing has remained clear. Elisha was a man who gave his life to something greater than himself. He was a man of the earth, a man of the people, and a man of God. He was a man who knew how to work, how to lead, and how to love. He was a man who understood that true power is not found in the fire, but in the quiet, steady work of everyday life. And that is a lesson that we can all carry with us. As we end this, remember the image of the final miracle. Remember the power that remained in his bones. It is a symbol of a life that was so fully lived, so completely poured out, that even death could not contain its influence. It is a symbol of a legacy that continues to touch lives, long after the one who created it has passed on. May you find your own path, may you burn your own plows, and may you find the courage to ask for your own double portion. May you be a light in your own corner of the world, and may your life be a testament to the power of service and the beauty of a life well lived. This has been the story of Elisha, a story of faith, a story of courage, and a story of hope. A story that reminds us that we are all capable of greatness if we are only willing to step out, to serve, and to believe. A story that reminds us that we are all, in our own way, a part of the grand, unfolding story of humanity. So, take this with you. Look for the opportunities to serve, look for the needs that you can fill, and look for the ways that you can make a difference. Because you never know what kind of impact you might have. You never know whose life you might touch. You never know what kind of legacy you might leave behind. It has been a privilege to share this story with you. It has been an honor to look at the life of one of history's most fascinating figures. and it has been a joy to explore the lessons that he has left for us. Thank you for listening, thank you for engaging, and thank you for being a part of this journey. The story of the prophet who performed double the miracles is not just a tale of the past. It is a living, breathing guide for the present. It is a reminder that the work is never really done, that there is always more to do, and that there is always another way to serve. It is a story of a man who never stopped, who never quit, and who never lost his focus. May his life continue to inspire you. May his example continue to guide you. And may his story continue to challenge you to be the best version of yourself, each and every day. Because at the end of the day, that is what it is all about. It is about the life we live, the things we do, and the love we share.
And with that, we leave the fields of Abel Mahola, the streets of Samaria, and the quiet, dusty tomb of a prophet. We leave the lessons that we have learned, the stories that we have shared, and the inspiration that we have found. We leave, but we do not forget. We carry the story of Elisha with us, as a reminder of what is possible when a life is lived with purpose, with passion, and with heart. The final image, as we close, is of that quiet, forgotten grave. It is a reminder that the most powerful things in life are often the ones we overlook. It is a reminder that the most profound impacts are often the ones we don't see coming. It is a reminder that the life of a single person, when lived for a higher calling, can change everything. Remember the man who walked away from his farm to change the world. Remember the man who served his people to the very end. Remember the man who, even in death, brought life to others. Remember Elisha, and let his story be a part of yours. The journey of the prophet is complete, but the journey of the lessons he taught is just beginning. Take them, use them, and let them guide you as you navigate your own life. Let them be a light in your dark moments, a guide in your confused moments, and a source of strength in your weak moments. The story of Elisha is a story that will stay with you, if you let it. It is a story that will grow with you, if you let it. It is a story that will change you, if you let it. And that is the greatest gift that any story can offer. So, as the sun sets on the life of this remarkable man, let us look forward to the stories that are yet to be written. Let us look forward to the lives that are yet to be changed.
And let us look forward to the impact that we all have the potential to make. Because the story of Elisha is not just his story, it is our story too. It is the story of the human spirit, the story of the search for meaning, and the story of the power of faith. And it is a story that will continue to be told, for as long as there are people who are willing to listen. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to this deep dive into the life of a man who truly understood what it meant to leave a legacy. We have walked through the desert, through the palaces, and through the streets, and we have seen how a farmer became a giant among men. We have seen how he used his life to serve others, and how his dedication turned him into the prophet that everyone went to when the water went bad or the army was at the gates. Elisha's life is a testament to the fact that you don't need to be a king to change the world. You don't need to be a priest to have an impact. You just need to be a person who is willing to give everything, to hold nothing back, and to serve with everything you have. And that is a message that is as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. As you go about your life, think about the mantle. Think about the burning plows. Think about the jar of oil. Think about the room on the roof. Think about the boy who was raised from the dead. And think about the man who, even in his final resting place, continued to bring life to those around him. Let these images fuel your own passion, your own service, and your own journey. Let them remind you that you have a role to play, a part to contribute, and a life to lead that is bigger than you can imagine. And let them remind you that you are never alone, that there is always something greater at work, and that there is always a way to make a difference. This has been the story of Elisha, and it has been an honor to share it with you. May you find the same strength, the same courage, and the same heart that he showed throughout his incredible, long, and meaningful life. And may you find the same peace that surely rests with him, in the place where the prophets go. Keep seeking, keep growing, and keep serving, because that is the way to a life that truly matters. That is the way to a legacy that will last. That is the way to be the person you were always meant to be. And that is the way to make your own mark on the world. The final chapter of Elisha's life is not just a conclusion. It is a beginning. It is the beginning of the stories that we will tell, the lessons that we will learn, and the lives that we will touch. It is the beginning of our own journey as we take the inspiration we have found and turn it into action in our own lives. So, as we say goodbye to the prophet of the streets, let us carry his spirit with us. Let us be the ones who stand in the gap, who heal the water, who save the families, and who look for the good in every situation. Let us be the ones who live with purpose, who serve with passion, and who love without reserve. And in doing so, let us honor the memory of the one who showed us how it was done. Let us honor the memory of the farmer, the apprentice, the kingmaker, and the prophet. Let us honor the memory of Elisha, the man who performed double the miracles and who left a legacy that will never be forgotten. This is the end of our story, but it is the start of yours. Go out and make it a good one. Go out and make it count. And go out and be the light that the world so desperately needs. Because you have the potential, you have the opportunity, and you have the story. Now all you have to do is live it. The echoes of his life still ring through the ages, a call to all who will listen. A call to step up, to serve, and to believe. A call to be the person you were created to be. And a call to make your life a testament to all that is good, true, and lasting. The story of Elisha is one that will continue to inspire, to challenge, and to transform. It is a story that is as timeless as the desert sands, as deep as the Jordan River, and as enduring as the bones that once sparked life in a tomb. It is a story that belongs to all of us, and it is a story that we are all, in our own way, continuing to write. May your own story be one of service, one of purpose, and one of impact. May your life be a source of hope, a beacon of light, and a reminder of all that is possible. And may you, like Elisha, leave a legacy that will continue to touch lives long after you have moved on. The prophet of the streets has left a path for us to follow, a trail of breadcrumbs that leads to a life of meaning and, ultimately, a legacy of love. It is a path that is not always easy, a path that requires sacrifice, and a path that demands everything. But it is a path that is worth it, for the destination is a life that is truly, deeply, and profoundly lived. We have seen the man, we have seen the miracles, and we have seen the legacy. Now, the rest is up to you. What will you do with what you have learned? What will you do with the potential that is within you? And what will you do to make the world a little bit better, one jar of oil at a time? The choice is yours. The opportunity is now, and the story is waiting to be told. So, go out there, be the prophet of your own life, and make it a story worth telling. Because at the end of the day, that is the greatest miracle of all. A life lived with intention, a life lived with heart, and a life lived in service to others. This has been the story of Elisha, the prophet who performed double the miracles. A story of a man who started in the dirt and ended in the light. A story of a man who gave everything and who received everything in return. A story of a man who remains, even today, a beacon of hope for all of us. Thank you for being here, for your attention, and for your willingness to go deep into the life of this incredible man. May his story continue to resonate with you. May it continue to challenge you, and may it continue to inspire you to be the best version of yourself. And may you always remember that no matter how small you feel, or how big the challenge seems, there is always a way forward, and there is always a way to serve. The story of Elisha is a story that will never truly end. For as long as we continue to learn from his life, to follow his example, and to live out the lessons he taught, he will always be with us. He will always be the prophet of the streets, the man who showed us that the smallest acts can have the biggest impact, and that the power of a life lived for others is the greatest power of all. So, let us carry these lessons forward. Let us keep the fire of his legacy burning bright. Let us be the ones who continue the work, who carry the mantle, and who make the world a little bit better, one day at a time. And let us do it with the same courage, the same compassion, and the same dedication that Elisha showed throughout his long and meaningful life. This is the end of our journey, but it is just the beginning of yours. Go out and live a life that matters, a life that serves, and a life that inspires. Because you have the power, you have the potential, and you have the story. Now, go out and write it. Go out and live it. And go out and be the light that the world so desperately needs. The story of Elisha is a story that will remain, a story that will inspire, and a story that will challenge. It is a story of a life lived in service, a life lived in faith, and a life lived in love. And it is a story that, in the end, is really about all of us. It is about our potential, our purpose, and our power to make a difference. So, thank you for being a part of this, for your time, and for your heart. And may your own story be one that is worthy of being told, one that is full of purpose, and one that makes the world a better place. Because that is the greatest legacy of all. The legacy of a life well lived, a life poured out, and a life that continues to make a difference, long after the final chapter has been written. This is the legacy of Elisha. This is the power of a life lived in service. And this is the hope that we all carry with us, as we continue our own journeys, and as we look for our own ways to make a mark on the world. Thank you, and may your life be as impactful, as meaningful, and as full of purpose as the life of the man we have explored today. The story of the prophet who performed double the miracles is complete, but the impact of his life is ongoing. It is a legacy of service, a legacy of faith, and a legacy of love. And it is a legacy that we can all be a part of as we choose to live our own lives with the same commitment, the same passion, and the same heart that Elisha showed throughout his remarkable journey. So, as the final words are spoken, let the story of Elisha be a source of strength, a source of guidance, and a source of inspiration. Let it be a reminder of all that is possible, a reminder of the power of service, and a reminder of the beauty of a life well lived. And let it be a call to each and every one of us to be the best that we can be, to serve with all that we have, and to live a life that truly matters. The legacy of Elisha is not just in the past, it is in the present, and it is in the future. It is in the choices we make, the things we do, and the love we share. It is in the way we live our lives, the way we treat others, and the way we seek to make a difference. And it is in the hope that we carry with us, as we continue to write our own stories, and as we continue to make our own mark on the world. Thank you for being here, for your heart, and for your willingness to explore the life of one of history's most inspiring figures. May you take the lessons of Elisha and carry them with you, and may you find in them the inspiration to live your own life with purpose, with passion, and with heart. Because that is the greatest legacy of all, and that is a legacy that will never, ever be forgotten.